Okay, Chaim. Here is the samagon. That's good. He explained to you what samagon is. It's illegal, but it's good. Yeah. Okay, so again, before we get into it, very much can ask that I finish the story. The Maisa that I told many times, and it could be some people heard it, but it's like the Maisa anyway. Kind of super chazan, yeah? So when I first arrived to Sumy, I left my family in Kharkov. I have a sister who's the shluchim in Kharkov already before, many years before, and I came myself. It was Tishrei. I went myself to Sumy between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to look for an apartment. Yom Kippur, I had a minyan mitzumtzum of 10 men that I later found out 3 or 4 of them weren't Yidden B'chlal.
You were able to daven?
But that's a side story.
That was after the
Thank you,
fact.
Cassius.
Thank you, Stifel
That
Shilas.
was after the fact. Okay.
Yom Kippur is not one of the holidays in Ukraine. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur is we call it Tzar Balei Chaim. Come, Chanukah, Purim, Pesach. Now you're talking. That's a holiday. To sit in shul and daven and fast all day is not their cup of tea. Anyway, so and then between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, weiter, I'm looking for an apartment. On Sukkot already, I still didn't find an apartment, and soon I'll explain to you why. So I finally brought my family from Kharkov to Sumy to be the first 2 days of Sukkot together with me. I found the main hotel in the center of the city had, on the top floor, they had renovated one room, which was a big room, the penthouse, on the 16th floor of the hotel, and the balcony, which was 2x2, didn't have anything over it. So I was able to build a sukkah on the balcony, and the room was also nishkeferlach. The other rooms that I was staying in on the lower floors were not to bring a family to. And I brought my family for sukkahs. Chalamayit, the elevator didn't work b'chlal. So to walk down 16 floors of 16 floors and walk back up 16 floors, nishkeferlach. But on Chalamayit, it was easier, and I went out weiter to look for an apartment. So looking for an apartment in the center of the city where the old shul used to be, and we eventually got back and we renovated. I wanted to be, an apartment near in the center. The apartments are very, very small. They're standard Soviet-built buildings, and each apartment, the biggest you can get is a 2-bedroom apartment, the mamash 2x2. And Baruch Hashem, we already had 3 kinderlach, and you want to invite guests for Shabbos, for shiurim, mechveis. There was nothing that we could find in the center. I went to this real estate agent, and a few reasons back and forth every day. So one day on Chalamayid, I went back and I see that on the desk by the real estate agent there are two notebooks. One notebook we look at every single day, and the other notebook we never open. And I was sitting there, I picked up the notebook. By that time I already knew every street in the center of the city, everything. I open up this notebook and I'm just glancing through, and I see apartment for rent, 150 square meters, on a street, mamash, a few blocks from the shul. This is like gold. This is perfect, what I'm looking for. 5 bedrooms. So I tell the lady, what's with this apartment? Why can't we go see this apartment? So she says, this book that we look at, this notebook, is Apartments Seudobstva. And this book is Bezudobstva.
What does that
Where's
mean?
my Russian translators?
Something with and without.
Oh, not bad. So udobstva is comfort. This is with comfort and this is without comfort. In English, plain English, this is furnished apartments and this is unfurnished apartments. I said if I wanted a furnished apartment with a jacuzzi, I could have stayed in Los Angeles. I didn't have to come to Sumi. I came to Sumi, I understood that I might get an apartment with bare walls. But let's go check it out. So she says, I see you don't understand, so I'll take you to see. Okay, fine. So we go to see the apartment, we walk through, it's perfect. Perfect. Everything was beautiful. And it was mamish in the center of the city, right where I needed it. Norvajaden, there's no bathroom. So I said, where's the bathroom? So she said, I tried to explain to you that these apartments come without comfort. But the truth is that this apartment has comfort in the yard outside. If you look through the window, you'll see in the yard, so that you could go outside and there's actually comfort over there. So I understood that my verstand of what's considered comfort and what's considered a necessity is on a different level. If we want to get into that, and just think about it, the neshama kupped that up in guf. The neshama comes down into this world, and it says al korcha chatachai. The neshama doesn't want to come into this world. The neshama. Why should the neshama want to come into a place tachtin shein tachtin l'mata mimenu? But they convinced the neshama that over here you can stuftan das shlichus. You can do mitzvahs over here, so it's worth it to live in tachtin shein tachtin, to live in this in such a grubbe place, because you can do a shlichus over there. So the neshama kind of gives up on its own comfort and says, okay, I'm willing to do the shlichus. It comes into the world, and the guf, we start explaining to our neshama that you don't understand what is comfort is asmata shein shtuv, and you can eat whatever you want and you can do whatever you want. That's comfortable. And the neshama says, I'm willing to give up on certain comforts, but ad kan. You need to have something. So my level of comfort was ad kan. Basically, in the house, I think was not on my level of Mesiras Nefesh at that time anyway. And therefore it was very difficult to find an apartment. Anyway, after Ramesh, it was Cholomai Tzukas, I went back after that. I walked back to the hotel, and on the way back to the hotel, I was walking through the square in the city, which is a very large square, and the government buildings all around the hotel. It was getting dark outside, and I'm walking alone in my kapota, my hat, Cholomai, with my lulav and esrig, and it's pretty empty, and I see a person coming towards me from far, and he's walking towards me. We're coming closer, and he's staring at me like he, just staring at me. And that's normal, people are staring at you, but derech klal, when somebody's staring at you and you look at them, they look away. They're not, it's uncomfortable. I look at him, he's staring at me, and he's coming closer and closer. I don't know what the guy wants from me, it's just me and him. He doesn't look like, as we come closer, I decide, okay, the best defense is an offense. I said, good evening, dobry večer. So he says to me, good evening, are you Chabad Lubavitch? Ti Chabad Lubavitch? Oh, I wasn't expecting that kind of a question. So I said, yeah, I'm Chabad Lubavitch. What about you? So he says, I'm Chabad Lubavitch. Okay, he didn't look like I look. I said, you're Chabad Lubavitch? Who's Jewish in your family? Your grandparents? Your parents? He says, I don't have Jewish people in my family. Not my Zayden, not my Baba, nobody's Jewish. I'm not Jewish. You're not Jewish, but you're Chabad Lubavitch. So how are you Chabad Lubavitch if you're not Jewish? So he says, because I work for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now just to geben zu verstehen, in Sumi, I'm a Rebbe also. I'm the Rebbe. Because Rabbi in Russian is Rebbe. That's the way people, Rebbe. Okay, so if he says, I'm working for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, right away in my head, okay, so which Shliach do you work for? Which Lubavitcher Rebbe do you work for? There's Rabbi Moskowitz in Kharkov, and Rabbi Kamenetsky in Dnieper, and Rabbi Segal in Poltava. Which Rebbe do you work for? So he says, I work for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson. So you work for the Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson. You're not Jewish, you're Chabad Lubavitch. You have Shen competition. I didn't even find an apartment yet. What's going on? Well, explain to me, what's the story? So he says, I'll tell you the story. 3 years ago, I won a lottery for a green card. In America, they have a certain quota of green cards that they give out by lottery. And you can sign up to get a green card, and if you win, so you win, you're in, and you can go to America. So he said, I won a green card. So I went to America, and I needed to find a job. So I looked around, and there was a job offer. I took it, and I became the janitor at the Oihel by the Rebbe, and I cleaned for 3 years. I worked. And I know Rabbi Shem Tov and Rabbi Krinsky and Rabbi Kotlarsky, and he starts naming everybody I can, Rabbi Refsin. I worked in the Oihel, and I worked for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I work for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And now I came back to see my family, and I have a little money. I'm trying to see if I can start a business. I in a hair. Kids. Okay. I took his phone number. I took his name. Later on, I confirmed with Rabbi Refsin the Taka. Sure, we know him. He worked for us. He's sure. I never found him again. I tried calling him many times. Never. He disappeared, garnished. But I could tell you that night I came back to the hotel, and I said, the Rebbe Poshet sent me a message. I'm walking through the streets. Ich bin ganz zerschmettert. For 2 weeks, I'm looking for an apartment. I can't find an apartment. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? A minion for Yom Kippur. Poshet. It was great. And here, this guy, the janitor, is cleaning the toilets in the oil. He's coming with a ganzen gaiva. I am Chabad Lubavitch. I work for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I work for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So if a guy could have such pride in being Chabad Lubavitch, working for the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I'm Poshet, ich bin a Schwanz. Ich bin the Shliach. I'm the Rebbe's Shliach here. How can I? So I put a switch in my head, and I started. The next day, I went back to the thing, and I said, I'm the Rebbe's Shliach in the city. You have to find an apartment for me. The Rebbe sent me here. I am sure there's an apartment here for me. You have to find an apartment. I'm giving you a day. We're going to find an apartment. And we found an apartment that day. We found an apartment. That was the apartment that I lived in for many, many years till we built a home next to the mikveh. It was a change in attitude, but it also taught me a lesson. A lot of people asked me, how do you survive in such a place for so many years? You're by yourself, a shliach alone, whatever. A lot of times I think back to that story, and especially afterwards, I didn't find this guy. I'm sure that Rebbe Poshet sent him to me. It was like a message. I know you're there. I know ich weiß, wo du bist, and you're fine. Everything is okay. The Rebbe sends us on shlichus. The Rebbe tells us where to be, how to do it. As long as we don't fail, as long as we're doing it with the right mission, and knowing that we're shluchim of the Rebbe and we have the koyach of the Rebbe will make sure that we're matzliach, and that's in general and specific. So that's the end of the story, at least beginning of my story. Yeah? Okay. L'chaim.